Wajia hoye! Wajia hoye! Ni leo si leo. Assalamu alaikum. Asanteni sana. This is Wajir County. And this is Kenya. This is what we meant when we said we would leave no one behind. The great people of Wajir County, distinguished leaders, ladies and gentlemen, today we make history. For the first time in 63 years of self-rule and national celebration, Madaraka Day is being hosted here in Wajir, in the heart of northern Kenya. This is not a mere ceremonial gesture. It is a national declaration. It is a moment of affirmation that Madaraka, our freedom, our dignity, our self-determination was never meant for some Kenyans and not for others. It was never meant for some regions and withheld from others. Madaraka belonged, still belongs, and will forever belong equally to every single Kenyan. Fellow citizens, on Madaraka Day in 1963, our freedom fighters did something consequential. They secured the transfer of political authority from colonial hands into African hands and into Kenyan hands. But self-rule was never simply about changing who holds power. It was about beginning the long but necessary journey of building a nation worthy of the sacrifices that secured its freedom. That promise, that work in progress, is the reason we are here today in Wajir. Decades after independence, this region was left behind through neglect, marginalization, discrimination, and policy failures. Sessional paper number 10 of 1965 entrenched a development paradigm that concentrated development in the so-called high potential areas. Vast regions like the former northern province were classified as marginal, as lesser, and as undeserving. The consequences, ladies and gentlemen, were devastating and long-lasting. Decades without adequate roads, without water, health, or schools. Communities pushed to the fringes of their own republic. Their patriotism questioned, their citizenship doubted, their aspirations undermined. For too long, some said this region was too difficult, too dry, too remote, and too insecure to deserve any development. That was wrong then. It is wrong now. It will forever remain wrong. But we are dismantling that legacy of exclusion. One road, one health facility, one school, one project, and one opportunity at a time. Fellow citizens, I want to tell you that on behalf of the people of Kenya, today, as I stand here as president and leader of our great nation, to the people of Kenya, in northern Kenya, for this marginalization, I want to apologize on behalf of the nation of Kenya. Poleni sana ndugu zetu. It was never meant to be this way. And as my brother governor has said, this has been a very emotional moment for me. I want to tell you the story of Bakaja Ibrahim Osman. He was born here in Wajir, east of this county in the early 1960s. His parents were born here, but for years, every time Osman went to apply for identity card, the most basic document of citizenship, he was treated not as a Kenyan, but as a suspect, an illegal alien. Every time he was asked for extra documents, subjected to additional vetting, and sent from office to office, year after year. Osman was not alone. For more than 6 decades, this was the lived experience of hundreds of thousands of Kenyans in northern Kenya. Citizens were forced to prove they belong through a system built on suspicion, ethnic profiling, and bureaucratic humiliation. How could Osman and countless others like him be expected to pursue their dreams and build their future? The Constitution of Kenya says clearly, every Kenyan, regardless of their ethnicity, religion, or geography, deserves equal protection, equal dignity, and equal treatment under the law. That is why in February 2025, right here at Orahes grounds in Wajir town, I signed the Presidential Declaration on registration and issuance of IDs and birth certificates in northern Kenya and other counties, ending that system of discrimination. The results, ladies and gentlemen, are already being felt. Citizens like Abdirahman Ali Osman and Mariam Isaac Mohammed, both born in 2007 here in Wajir County, were among thousands of young Kenyans who turned 18 last year and walked away with their national identity cards. No hurdles, no extra documentation, no discrimination, no humiliation, just their rightful documents in their hands on time. That is how it should work. That is how it must work. That is how it will work for every Kenyan in every part of our republic. But let me be direct about what that decision was not. It was not an invitation for foreigners to acquire Kenyan documents illegally. Kenyan identity cards will only be issued to legitimate citizens of this republic. Our commitment to justice and inclusion goes hand in hand with our duty to protect the integrity of our national identity and the security of our country. We did not abolish verification of citizenship. We abolished discrimination. We abolished the targeting of entire communities simply because of their ethnicity or place of birth. A strong nation does not choose between security and justice. A strong nation protects both. That is exactly what we are doing. Today, people like Osman and Mariam no longer feel like strangers in their own country. They feel seen and heard. They feel recognized. They matter and they belong. Ladies and gentlemen, yet we know that inclusion does not end with recognition. It must be reflected in people's daily lives, in the education of their children, the health that they access, the opportunities available to their young people, and the roads they travel on. That is why the bottom-up economic transformation agenda was conceived not merely as an economic program, but as a deliberate strategy for inclusion. This administration, my administration, has deliberately invested in northern Kenya and historically marginalized regions of our republic. Of all the investments, ladies and gentlemen, we are making in northern Kenya, none is more important than education, which is also the theme of this year's Madaraka: education, skills, and the future. Of all the tools a nation possesses, education is the most potent. It is the bridge between promise and possibility, between poverty and prosperity, and between exclusion and belonging. Unlike in 1963, the next frontier of Kenya's liberation will not be fought on conventional battlefields. It will be won in classrooms and lecture halls, laboratories and workshops, and in innovation hubs. The nations leading the world today and their position: South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore, invested in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education and became a technology powerhouse. Singapore turned it to its people into the greatest resource. Finland built a knowledge economy through sustained investment in learning. Kenya is decisively moving in that direction. The competence-based education and training system is transforming what learning means in Kenya. It is equipping our children not merely to pass examinations, but to think critically, solve problems, innovate, and compete on the global stage. Wajir is not the age of Kenya. Wajir is Kenya. Northeastern is Kenya, and Kenya belongs to all of us. Ndugu zangu watu wa Wajir, mimi nimefurahi sana. This has been a great moment. This has been one of the most consequential Madaraka days that I have attended. Na mimi nawaambia watu wa Wajir, watu wa Northern Kenya, yale yalifanyika pale nyuma hayatafanyika tena. Tutatembea pamoja kama ndugu wa taifa moja. Nataka niwahakikishie uwanja huu ambao tumejenga kwa muda mfupi, mimi nitahakikisha kwamba imekamilika na imekuwa kiwango ya kimataifa. Na baada ya kukamilisha uwanja huu, vile